So crypto is currently having a hard time because mainly of the Chinese are cracking down on Bitcoin as a currency mainly. So Chinese miners also need to stop the operations in various provinces. But with all this fear, uncertainty and doubt around Bitcoin and China, I think there is actually an investment opportunity around China and namely blockchain technology. And this is my investment, which I took actually in the beginning of this year, called XUNLEI or XNET. So in this video, I will talk more about a little bit of a due diligence around this company and go a bit deeper so that you can also better understand the opportunity and also some risk associated with it. But first, let me talk briefly about Bitcoin and China, because obviously I also have a large of my crypto portfolio in Bitcoin, actually the largest bit. And I still remain bullish on Bitcoin. Once again, I repeat what I mentioned before in my last video, which I link here about Bitcoin and China, that I do think we possibly haven't seen the top of Bitcoin of this cycle yet. So Bitcoin is always moving in cycles after the halvings and so on. And I do think that we possibly will recover and go higher from here. And on the other hand, yes, China is kind of creating their own digital currency, and this will not be a decentralized currency, of course, so it cannot compare with Bitcoin. So I do think actually that the West should be really embracing Bitcoin and blockchain technology as something decentralized that should actually kind of align with our value system here in the West, as opposed to something like a closed system in China. But this is just to give you some context around my investment in XUNLEI, which one of the business units is actually around blockchain technology. And when it comes to blockchain technology, this is the ambiguity that many don't understand about China. It is highly supported and even subsidized and invested by the Chinese government. So the Chinese Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, MIIT, and the Cyberspace Administration of China, they have just recently announced that they want to create an advanced blockchain industry system. Blockchain technology was even mentioned in the last 5-year plan as one of the digital technologies to foster and to strengthen, and that's coming really top down. So you can see this ambiguity here of the Chinese government. So on one hand side, they're cracking down on Bitcoin because this is a currency which they cannot control, and it's highly decentralized, so there's no way of authorities controlling or institutions controlling this asset, which is one of the biggest values and benefits of Bitcoin. And then on the other hand, there's this underlying blockchain technology, which doesn't necessarily have to happen on the Bitcoin blockchain. There are other blockchains out there, for instance Ethereum, but as well there can be different ledgers or blockchains that can be used in different ways. So for China, blockchain is mainly about industry applications. So here you see the website of the Thunder chain, which is the XUNLEI services offered in this area, and are currently mostly around consulting and creating blockchain solutions based on their platforms. So they've got industry solutions in different areas, for instance tracing goods, medical industry, supply chain, electronic billing, vouchers, which can be built on this Thunder chain, which is quite powerful in terms of the capabilities of the throughput and the processes that they can cover based on this platform, which they enable developers to adopt and build basically applications on it. They have the first partners and use cases for it, but frankly, just like with blockchain in general, this is still in the early days, so this is mostly not commercialized too much. I do imagine that these projects are currently already profitable in terms that they get paid for each of those custom-made solutions that they do, but it's not yet to really scale, and maybe also most of those projects are not large enough in order to show the real capabilities of this underlying platform. And this also shows in the revenues for XUNLEI. So you can see that the most revenues that they make are actually coming from the subscription revenues. and they have been just slightly increasing, but have been at more than 80 million US dollars on an annual level. And these subscription revenues are mainly coming from a Dropbox-like subscription that users can use in order to upload data and share it, because this is where XUNLEI originally is coming from. They have been always in this kind of peer-to-peer distributed and also file sharing industry, so similar to actually like Emule or BitTorrent in the past. But now on this kind of technology, they're now building different kind of new services. So as you can see, they have more revenue streams. For instance, live streaming in the past was actually bigger, more than 30 million annual revenue, but has now since dropped down to only 20 million. And then also advertising revenue is coming down more and more. For the live streaming part, I actually do expect them to come out with new products that are actually consumer focused. So maybe a new short film application, for instance, because this is actually where the new CEO is coming from. And they may bundle this offering together with, for instance, their Dropbox-like personal cloud services. And then regarding advertisement revenues, I mentioned before that I think that advertisement doesn't work well in China. For instance, when I used different performance marketing offerings in China, when we had our e-commerce app in China, I noticed like how bad the performance is actually compared to what we have in the West with, for instance, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. But why I think it's actually interesting that XUNLEI is also making some revenues in the advertisement area is because there's one issue around advertisement, particularly in China, which has to do with fraud. And here is why blockchain technology could actually make a difference. So you have those click farms in China that are used in order to generate clicks. And that is actually a big issue, not only for brands that are paying influencers or are paying for performance marketing, but also for those companies that are offering the ads, because, well, there's just too much fraud in the system. And now with blockchain technology, there would be actually a way of creators being able to verify that their following is legit, and also that somebody, for instance, clicked on the advertisement and so on. And at the same time, there might be a way for influencers to really earn money based on their following which they have. And this could all be working on some sort of blockchain technology. I have actually met a startup in Shanghai called Robin8, which is working in this area, and this is all still venturing and startup stage. But because of the pain point and because I've experienced this pain point, and I do think there is a good application for that within the realm of blockchain technology, this is why I actually don't mind, or actually see even an opportunity here for XUNLEI to work on such kind of an offering for the future. But now the most interesting part here is actually cloud computing, which is actually the real growing business under the hood here, improving from less than 40 million US dollars a year to almost 70 million US dollars. And what XUNLEI is doing here is that they are using this P2P hybrid cloud technology that they have developed initially for the file sharing offerings, which of course are similar to BitTorrent or Emule, which is supposed to have better download speeds, a better user experience, and which enables a more distributed network for different nodes in the cloud, which are less centralized, but in fact also even at some point some users can be part of creating a node in the network. So essentially the largest part of XUNLEI's business will soon be actually the cloud and cloud computing technology that they are offering. So content delivery, for instance, for video streaming. Some of the biggest clients are, for instance, Baidu or even Xiaomi and Bilibili and other video providers in China. Because essentially XUNLEI is having all of those different nodes that are, for instance, the consumers, but also other decentralized servers, which XUNLEI is kind of bundling in this hybrid cloud and offering as a service. And I've mentioned before how this is interesting to me because essentially XUNLEI is one of the few companies here in China that you can actually invest in, which are in the area of CDN, cloud computing, and actually also edge cloud computing. There are others like China Cash, but it's private. Baishan Cloud is also not IPO'd. XNCloud. These are all companies that are not investable by foreign investors. And actually, if you look at the underlying technology for those CDN providers, it seems like Peer5 and XUNLEI might be the only one going down the road so far for such kind of a peer-to-peer technology incorporated for a CDN. Now, of course, there are also many question marks around this, like how good is this CDN, this kind of hybrid cloud already, how scalable is it, and so on. And one interesting point here is regarding, for instance, the hardware sales that they're having. So because previously they were selling kind of NAS systems like network disks that were actually functioning as a node in this overall hybrid cloud. And you can see that they are basically almost zero by now. So they are now less and less selling those hardware devices which have previously been used as providing bandwidth to this overall cloud and to this content delivery network, where users were actually kind of incentivized to give their idle bandwidth into the network. And that's actually why I wrote to the investor relations and asked them how it's possible to scale this hybrid P2P network if the actual hardware sales are going down, which I thought were necessary in order to scale and uphold actually the network. But I mentioned they can actually uphold and increase the bandwidth even though they don't sell more of this hardware to private consumer. First, because they increase the capacity of each of those nodes, and second of all, they are using also now third parties which are having high performance devices that are not provided by XUNLEI themselves. So this is not those hardware sales anymore, and that can be used within those CDN services. So for me, I would still like to better understand how this technology actually works and can be scaled. So hopefully XUNLEI could maybe communicate more directly about this, or maybe at some point I managed to interview an expert in the field in China regarding this. But on the other hand, the clients are really huge networks, and as we can see on the business side, the revenues on this particular field are actually scaling well. And so this is kind of the under the hood revenue that is maybe not recognized yet by Wall Street as well, because that really gives them kind of some competitive edge, or even places them into benchmarks and competitors like, for instance, like in the US, Fastly on the one hand side, or Cloudflare on the other hand. Another bit of due diligence that I found out is that, well, there are shareholder complaints and maybe even some short sellers betting against XUNLEI, and that has to do with the fact that XUNLEI previously, when they sold this hardware, they also kind of offered that people are getting paid in their own issued token, which kind of is forbidden in China. You are not allowed to make your own initial coin offering in China by law. But if we look at the annual report of XUNLEI, they state in that actually there was a court ruling which actually deemed that this was not an illegal activity that XUNLEI has been doing there. So this OneCoin, or later named Link token, was not deemed as an initial coin offering in China, and therefore it was all legit that they have been doing. But obviously there have been some netizen and people that have lost money possibly betting on this coin, and possibly were losing money when it was depreciating. And also there are issues around copyright claims, because obviously the XUNLEI cloud drives, similar to Dropbox, they can be used for file sharing in an illegal way. And also the video streaming services that XUNLEI has can contain, for instance, copyrighted material such as movies. And so, there might be an issue regarding claim of ownership, or even damages that have to be paid by XUNLEI. But so far as I've checked, these are really either minimal amounts, or XUNLEI actually won those copyright claims. But anyways, these are of course things to consider when kind of investing in a company that's coming from this kind of a gray area field in terms of blockchain technology, but also file sharing. So as you can see, XUNLEI is operating in various different fields. At the core, they're coming from this idea of peer-to-peer networking, a little bit around decentralization as far as that's possible in China. connected to the technology of the blockchain, but of course not the Bitcoin blockchain here. So for instance, the Thundercloud platform which they're offering is actually compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine, so it can work with some of those international standards here, but we are most likely to see also some China-specific development there. But for now, I would deem those blockchain services and the technology just as a kind of an add-on for, let's say, a 5 to 10 years out investment case, where the blockchain technology can actually be applied in various spaces in different industries, possibly heavily supported also by the areas in which the Chinese government wants to take a leading role. But until then, not much of a commercialization to see there. But as you have seen, the main growth space for XUNLEI right now is actually in the area of cloud computing. And that is actually one interesting space, as I've mentioned. And in China, there are not many companies where you can invest in that are actually specifically doing this regarding edge computing. So I hope this gives you a better insight into what XUNLEI is doing and some pros and cons around it, and also how blockchain technology may grow into this field, and for instance in the area of advertisement. So yeah, this is why I have invested in this company. I think it's early stages. I think the valuation is quite good right now. So for me, that's one of the shots that I'm taking into a long-term view here. So thank you guys for watching. Please smash a like button and then see you in the next one.